They sold my land. The words hung heavy in the air of the lawyer's office. Room 3B at Miller & Associates. Dust motes danced in the afternoon sunlight. My father, Don Javier Castillo, a man whose reputation was as carefully built as the commercial towers he developed, sat across the mahogany desk. My mother, Lucia Castillo, who presided over 3 different charity boards, sat beside him with her hands perfectly folded in her lap. She was the picture of civic grace. He was the image of financial prudence. He cleared his throat and spoke with the same voice he used with contractors and council members. Calm, final. We made a business decision. The developers offered $1.2 million. It is for the good of the family. Your grandfather would have understood the practical aspects. Mr. Whitaker, our family lawyer for 2 decades, suddenly became fascinated by a spot on his leather blotter. He would not look at me. Though there were only 4 of us in that room, it felt as though 1,000 eyes waited for my performance. The obedient daughter who understands. But I could only think about the legal-sized paper folded in thirds inside my bag. The last letter my grandfather wrote to me, the one they never knew existed. My name is Elena Castillo and I was 32 years old when my parents told me my inheritance had vanished. But before I tell you what was written on that final sheet of paper they could not sell, I want you to know what happened when I showed them what my grandfather truly left me. Before I reveal the letter, give this video a like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments if your family sold something that was meant only for you. Could you ever forgive them? Because what happened next changed everything. This is how I got here. Growing up as a Castillo in our corner of Austin, Texas, was like living on a stage. Our family brand was success and our home was the set. The lawn was cut to exactly 1.5 inches. Sunday dinners were served precisely at 6 p.m. with a seating plan my mother enforced with silent intensity. My older brother, Alejandro Castillo, junior partner at a downtown law firm, was the star of the production. He had the right wife, the right car, and had produced the first grandchild, securing the dynasty. I was the artistic one, a role tolerated as a charming eccentricity. My work as a graphic designer was seen as a hobby, not a career. My father's philosophy was simple and he repeated it often. Sentimentality is a cost. An asset is an asset. Do not become attached to things that cannot make you money. The rules were unwritten but absolute. Project strength, hide weakness, and always protect the family image. I remember the first time I felt the cold truth beneath the warm performance. It was at my grandfather Mateo Castillo's funeral. While his old veteran friends shared stories of his kindness, I overheard my father on the phone in the hallway discussing the significant value of the property and the development potential of the cabin my grandfather had just left me. A cold knot formed in my stomach. He was praising an asset, not a man. The man they never saw was the one who had truly raised me. Grandfather Mateo Castillo was the quiet interruption in my father's noisy world of ambition. Summers at his cabin in the hill country were my real education. The house smelled of cedar wood and fresh coffee. He spent his days not climbing a corporate ladder but repairing a neighbor's fence, sharing tomatoes from his small garden, and teaching me to find Orion's belt in the vast dark sky. He had built the cabin himself after returning from the Korean War. A sanctuary from the world his son was desperate to conquer. There was a rocking chair on the porch he had painted spectral blue to ward off troubled spirits. On the windowsill sat a collection of 32 smooth river stones, one for each year of his marriage to my grandmother Elena. His copy of Lonesome Dove lay on the nightstand, its spine broken and soft from 100 readings. He showed me character through actions, not words. He would say, "This land does not own you, my child, you only care for it for a while." I was 12 when I found him on the porch one night staring at the oaks. I thought he was alone. He was crying silently, as men of his generation did. Later I learned he had just finished a heated call with my father about money and selling the land to fund one of my father's early ventures. Mateo had refused. That silent moment of his private pain was more real than anything I had witnessed in my parents' perfect house. He was the opposite of my father. Authentic where my father was polished. Rich in a way my father would never understand. The first confrontation came on the 14th of June, 2 weeks after the funeral, in the same lawyer's office where it would all end. The will was read. The 5-acre property had been left solely to me, Elena Castillo. My father was named executor. "This is a formality," he announced to the room. "As executor I will manage the asset." I found my voice. "It is not an asset, father, It is grandfather's home. He did not hesitate. And now it is a significant tax liability. We will handle the maintenance. 6 months later, on a cold 5th of January, I drove the 90 minutes to the cabin. A new heavy industrial chain and master padlock were on the door. My key was useless. I called him from the side of the road. I tried to go to the cabin. I said, "Why is there a new lock?" His voice was smooth, practiced. "For security, Elena, there have been reports of vandalism in the area. We cannot allow the property to be damaged." I insisted. "I want my own key." There was a brief pause. "That is not necessary. Just call me when you want to go and I will arrange it." I called 3 times in the following 2 months. He never had time to arrange it. The third confrontation was at Sunday dinner on the 20th of April. The table was set with my mother's wedding china. An old neighbor from the hill country, Mrs. Gable, had called me that morning. "Elena," she said, "there were men with tripods and measuring tapes all over your grandfather's land." I waited for a calm moment in the conversation. "Mrs. Gable called me," I said, looking at my father. "She said there were surveyors on grandfather's land." My mother intervened immediately. "Elena, we do not discuss business at the table." My father set down his fork with deliberate care. "It is only an evaluation for insurance purposes. Standard procedure." I looked at him. It did not sound standard. His voice lowered, losing its public warmth. "We are handling the estate matters with fiduciary responsibility. That is all you need to know." My brother Alejandro, always the ally, nodded. "Father knows what he is doing. It is complicated." Then came the buyout offer. On the 10th of May, my father showed up at my small apartment unannounced. He looked out of place among my art books and half-finished paintings. He went straight to the point. "Look, I know the cabin has sentimental value, but sentimentality does not pay the bills. The family has an opportunity." He paused, then handed me the offer. "I am prepared to offer you $50,000 for your share in the property." A clean break. I just stared at him. "It is not my share. It is mine, entirely, and it is not for sale." He sighed, a condescending sound. "Do not be naive. This is a life-changing amount of money for someone in your position." The meaning was clear. For someone who chose art over commerce. For someone who was not Alejandro. I walked to the door and opened it. "I think you should leave." He left. The final blow arrived by certified mail. An official notice of sale from the Travis County Clerk's office. Buyer, Elite Horizon LLC. Purchase price, $1,200,000. Closing date, 1 week earlier. It was done. I scheduled the meeting, which brings us back to that room. Back to my father's statement. Your grandfather would have understood the practical aspects. I let the silence settle for 10 full seconds. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out the single sheet of paper folded in thirds. I let his words hang in the air for a moment before I acted. The hum of the building's air conditioning seemed to grow louder. My mother kept adjusting the strap of her purse. My father watched me, his expression unreadable, confident. I slowly unfolded the worn paper my grandfather had given me. The folds were soft, almost like fabric. I placed it on the gleaming mahogany desk between us. It was a letter. My grandfather's familiar, slightly slanted handwriting filled the page. I said nothing, simply pushed it toward my father. He took it. My mother leaned over his shoulder to read. I knew the words by heart. "My dearest Elena," it began. "If you are reading this, it means I am gone and it means someone is trying to take this land from you. Probably my own son. He sees acres. I see memories. He sees timber. I see the place where you learned to climb a tree. The title is in your name, but a piece of paper can be contested. This cannot. This notarized letter by my friend Judge Thompson on the 3rd of October 2022 contains a covenant that runs with the land itself. It restricts any commercial development on these 5 acres for 99 years. Furthermore, it grants you lifetime lease and custody, Elena Castillo, and designates the property as a private family trust with you as the sole trustee. After my death, my lawyer has the original document. This is your copy. They may sell the land, but they cannot build on it. They cannot evict you. They sold a beautiful empty promise for $1.2 million. The land has no value to a developer, but to us it is priceless. On the back is a map. It leads to the well, not the water well, the one I used to bury our time capsule in 2008. The true inheritance is inside. I love you more than all the stars we used to count. Grandfather Matteo. The silence in the room was absolute. My father's face, usually flushed with success, turned a pale sickly grey. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, a small choked sound escaping. Mr. Whitaker, the lawyer, finally moved. He reached out, took the letter from my father's stunned hands and read it. He read it again. He leaned back slowly in his leather chair, the springs creaking in protest. He looked at my father, his professional mask gone, replaced by disbelief. Javier, is this true? My father said nothing. My mother's whisper cut the silence. What have you done? The consequences were swift. Within 3 days, Elite Horizon's legal team, doing due diligence before construction, discovered the covenant filed with the county. The $1.2 million sale was not only void, it was a textbook case of fraudulent misrepresentation. My father, the respected businessman, had sold them a beautiful prison of land they could never use. Feeling adrift, I took a photo of Grandfather Matteo's letter and the hand-drawn map on the back. I posted it on my private Instagram with 412 followers. My caption was 5 words, my grandfather had the last word. A friend shared it. A Texas blogger saw the post. By the end of the day it had 10,000 likes. By the next morning 250,000. It reached the front page of Pro Revenge on Reddit. The Austin Chronicle wrote a small online article naming names. By the end of the week my post had 3.1 million impressions. My father's company Facebook page was flooded with so many negative comments they had to shut it down completely. My mother's charity board called an emergency closed-door meeting. On Friday, Elite Horizon LLC filed a lawsuit against my father for $2.5 million. The story was no longer mine. It belonged to everyone. I felt the responsibility to be clear, to cut through the noise. I posted a formal statement. Thank you for the overwhelming support. To clarify, my grandfather Matteo Castillo left me his 5-acre property in his will. My father Don Javier Castillo, acting as executor, sold the property to a developer for $1.2 million without my consent. However, my grandfather left a final letter, a legally binding land covenant that prevents any development for 99 years and grants me lifetime custody. The sale is now in litigation. My only intention is to honor my grandfather's wishes and preserve this piece of land as he left it. It was never about money. It was about memory. It was shared 85,000 times. My parents' response came 2 days later through an expensive public relations firm. This is a private family matter involving a complex inheritance agreement that has been publicly misunderstood. We are working to resolve the unfortunate misunderstandings. But the evidence, as they say, kept appearing. My brother Alejandro's wife's cousin posted a screenshot of a family group chat from 6 months earlier. In it my father wrote about planning to liquidate the unproductive hill country asset soon. Great profit potential. The community fractured. I received 1,247 direct messages. By my count, 92% were supportive. The other 8% told me I was destroying my family. A message from a man who served with my grandfather in Korea simply said, Matteo would be very proud of you. He always knew you had his heart. 1 week later I followed the map on the back of the letter. It led past the shed, across the stream bed, to a part of the property I had rarely explored. There, hidden by overgrown oleanders, was an old stone well. I removed the rotten wooden cover. Inside was a green oxidized metal ammunition box. This was the time capsule. I pulled it out. Inside were the predictable 2008 items, a silly drawing I had made. A Star Wars action figure, some faded photographs. But beneath all that was something more, a bundle of letters wrapped in oilcloth and tied with string. They were letters between my grandfather Matteo and my grandmother Elena, written before I was born. I sat on the ground and opened one dated 1965. She was pregnant with my father. Ricardo looks so much like you in spirit. My love, she wrote to Matteo, who was away on a long construction job. But I worry about the world he will grow up in. I see how men chase money and forget the land. I prayed today that if our son ever becomes lost, if he ever forgets the value of a quiet home and a loving heart, that his own son or daughter will be the one to remind him. May your legacy of love, not his ambition, be what endures in our family. I pray our grandchild has your heart. Sitting there on the land my grandfather fought to save, reading the words of the grandmother I never knew, I finally broke. I sat on the cabin floor and cried for an hour. It was no longer about the land. It was about a prayer answered across 50 years. In the end, the developers reached a settlement. My father's legal and financial life became a tangle. His reputation in our small city was irrevocably tarnished. I used a portion of the funds legally awarded to me from the consequences to establish the Elena Castillo Nature Trust, partnering with a local university to protect the 5 acres as a site for ecological study. I have not spoken with my parents. I sent a Christmas card last year, a simple photo of the cabin. There was no reply. The door to their lives is not locked, but I do not knock. My brother Alejandro's son, Leo, who is 7 years old, sometimes comes to visit me at the cabin. He has my grandfather's eyes. Last month he asked, "Why doesn't Grandpa Javier come here?" I thought for a moment. This was his father's special place, I said. And he forgot how to be quiet in it. So now it is our job to be quiet for him. He nodded, accepting it with the simple grace of a child, and went back to collecting river stones. An inheritance is not something you are given. It is the part of someone you choose to carry with you. You cannot sell a legacy and you cannot buy a memory. My grandfather left me 5 acres, but he taught me it was the whole world, and that is a truth no piece of paper can ever take away. It can only confirm it. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.